The biggest takeaway to me about this game is that this is going to be a nail-biting, sweat-inducing, furrowing of the brow, pacing up and down the hallway type of season for the Buffalo Bills. You can never count them out, but in a game against an elite foe, they are going to make you work for it. I mean, what an insane ending to this game. When the Ravens go up by a couple of touchdowns and Derrick Henry is absolutely racing down the field with almost nobody that can stand in his way, you're like, this thing is obviously over. And credit the Bills on this. They just refused to go away. And the Ed Oliver fumble forced on Derrick Henry is the turning point of this game, because the Bills had to figure out a way to get a stop somehow when the Ravens kept extending the lead or answering every touchdown for touchdown, score for score. And Oliver's forced fumble did exactly that. Without that, they don't win this football game. But this Bills team is going to always be in games because of that quarterback, because of that man under center, because of that reigning MVP. Josh just makes things happen. Now, we can go through all the nuances of this game, which we will do. But that one right there is a stamp that says the Bills this year, they are going to have some magic. They just have this in them, and primarily it's because of their quarterback, but they do have something about them because of him that allows them to believe that they are never actually out of a football game. And for it to happen against the Ravens, who you could zip back the time clock to about 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, and I would say most people around the NFL would say that is now the team to beat in the entire football league. The Baltimore Ravens are unstoppable at quarterback, unstoppable at running back, have big play on offense, and just went to Buffalo and got an impressive victory after the Chiefs looked like dog food on Friday night. That you would, and the Philadelphia Eagles didn't do themselves any favors either with a lethargic win on Thursday night. Now you spin ahead and say, well, the Bills won that football game. So what does that make the Buffalo Bills? It makes them, again, a heat sweat type of team this season, because it will always have an underlying, is the defense good enough? But there will always be an underlying, yeah, but we're never out of it because of Josh. That is a very important win. Forget for the moment just the excitement level. And if you're coming out of Buffalo, or if you're coming out of the stadium right now, if you're in and around Buffalo, walking out of a sports bar, walking out of a buddy's house, what have you, and you're on your phone and you're watching the post-game show again, this post-game show, we'll do this after every game immediately. You are going, how the hell did we win that football game? That was the reaction tonight. How the hell do they win that football game? But if you zoom out, that's actually a really important win from a playoff standing standpoint. And I know it's week number 1, but because when you look at the standings at the end of NFL seasons, usually comes down to a game or a tiebreaker for seeding, for divisions, for home field advantage, for who goes where. The Bills just earned the head-to-head tiebreaker with the Ravens, and we know Baltimore is going to be there in January. And the Bills now have a 1-0 record, and the Chiefs have an 0-1 record. And so there's at least a little bit of a gap there. Obviously, there's 16 more of these to be played, but in terms of already maneuvering around the tiebreakers and what that could potentially mean, it's way better to win this game than lose this game. And not just from an emotional standpoint, but from a real standing standpoint. That game isn't won, as I said, unless Ed Oliver sticks his big helmet, big shoulder pad, a big paw into Derrick Henry and pops that ball loose. It's an incredible defensive play, but also Oliver has the 2 other huge plays in the backfield, one for a sack on Lamar in the first half, and the other for the big tackle for loss. He was unguardable, unstoppable at times this night, and they needed all of those plays. And I thought Bosa, who got killed on the outside by Lamar Jackson, who then adjusted, as Collinsworth pointed out, and was able to contain after that, made a couple of important stops as well after getting burned early. So Bosa learned his lesson. Look, he was the big free agent piece on the defense. He comes with the last name and with the sack totals and all of that. He needed to be better than he was early in that game, and he was that. But I just thought the team began to respond late with that belief. And that belief stems from the quarterback. There's just no other way around it. I mean, it's not hyperbole to say that if you have Josh Allen, that game still feels within reach. If you don't, it doesn't. And the team began to respond. Coleman had a couple of big catches, and the team just had some juice, had some life in the final 5 minutes of that game when they probably should have been dead and dog and out of it, well before then. So that was, to me, the shouts on the night. There is plenty of negatives as well. All right, look, let's just be very obvious about this. The Bills cannot win a Super Bowl if the defense plays like that. That is going to be a no-show. That is going to be a no contest. There is no chance that the Bills can get where they want to get if they play defense that way. Now, to be fair, there's not a lot of teams that have a Lamar Jackson and a Derrick Henry. In fact, there's only one of them. And the Bills might end up facing them in the postseason as well. So it's not like you could just say, okay, we got that out of the way. You probably will have to go through them again. That was unacceptable for massive stretches of the game. In fact, it is basically unacceptable for almost the entirety of the game. Besides the final drive in which Harbaugh and the Ravens got incredibly conservative to the point where it's head shaking, the Bills could not get off the football field. You're not going to win a Super Bowl when you allow Derrick freaking Henry to run for 9.3 yards per carry and Lamar to do those types of things. Now, look, part of this is they do this to everybody, Lamar and Derrick Henry, and both of those guys have their warts in the playoffs. Last year, we saw this in the divisional round. The year before, we saw this with Lamar and the Ravens offense against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. We've seen them stagnate when it came to January. But what we saw tonight from the Bills defense, there's a lot on film that they're going to have to tie up. And I know that those injuries in the secondary is going to be, something that you hope gets better, and that, you eventually have Hairston, and that you get Tre'Davious White healthy and all of that. But what you had there defensively was gashing. Derrick Henry running at will, Zay Flowers getting open in the secondary, and Lamar Jackson breaking tackles and finding open space as well. Again, the Ravens offense is elite, but that is completely unacceptable. And I think if there's something that you don't want a great win like this to cover up, is that the defense got bailed out. The defense got really bailed out, and there is obviously legit concern over whether this defense, as presently constructed, can get the Bills where they need to get.